coming today. I got a great presentation for you. I think it's a very unique presentation, one for our organization, two for this university as a whole. My name is Eric Stiles, and I'm the president of the National Organization for Business Engineering, or NOBE, here on campus. So what is it exactly that we do? We integrate two very diverse fields, business and engineering together. So whether you want to be an engineer that works out in the industry and someday work for upper level management, running the ins and outs of the business, or maybe you want to create a startup with a really cool tech idea you want to create for yourself. So all of this comes from a group of people that have a passion for engineering, and they want to dive deeper into the connection with business. So what does that have to do with today? Today is about a passion that you have for anything outside of engineering. So whether it be engineering, or maybe you're studying to be a doctor and you want to run your own practice someday, or you want to be a photographer, or you want to run your own hedge fund, or you have a passion for food and you want to start a food truck. So when I'm talking about having a passion for something, I mean that you can put forth the time, effort, and dedication into something that you work for because you love to do it, and you allow the success and the money to be a byproduct instead of a goal. So I've heard a couple presentations on campus from different startup companies, different corporations, different professors. And all the time at the start, I think, why should I be listening to this person presenting? How can I validate what they're talking about? And in this case, the best way to do that would be to try the food for yourself, or stop by the truck. So a couple of organizations, if you're part of an organization, you might notice bringing food to an event that either attracts members or it's just kind of expected that you guys have food at your events. But for today, we wanted to try to turn that into a way for you guys to experience the success of the speaker by hearing them, and as well as experiencing the food itself. So for however many of you that actually have food tickets, you guys are going to get to try that today after the event. And otherwise, if you don't have a ticket, I suggest that you try out the truck yourself. Stop by, notice it around campus, and see how it's actually integrated into our campus culture. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Daniel, the owner of the craft food truck.
Okay, there we go. Hi, I'm Daniel Krause. I am the owner of the Cracked Food Truck, and today I'm going to talk about turning your passion into a business. When I was 20 years old, I came up with the concept called Cracked. I was pretty young and didn't really have any business experience at all. And I had this cool internship with a company called Let Us Entertain You. Part of this internship was they split you up into groups and you got to create a restaurant concept. So I pitched this idea for Crack to the rest of my team, and they liked it a lot, and we went forward with it. And by the end of the summer, we had basically created a restaurant. We created this little model, this little diorama of it, with little tables and chairs and whatnot. You could walk in and see everything. It's really cool. And we presented it to the partners at the end of the summer, and lo and behold, we ended up winning the competition. So that was kind of the spark. I wanted to do this. I wanted to get into something by myself, and I wanted to start something that was my own. And so when I was a senior, I thought, I've got this cool idea, I want to go forward with it, let's do something. So, second semester senior year, I don't know how many seniors there are in here, but it's a fairly daunting idea that comes over you that, okay, someday I'm gonna have to do something and not binge watch Netflix on the couch all day. And that's daunting. That was daunting to me. And I thought, man, I really don't want to go work for anyone else. I've done that. I kind of hated it, taking, following directions. So I kind of roped one of my friends into doing this with me. And when I went to him, I was like, yo, Jeremy, you want to open a food truck with me? And the first thought was like, hell no. You know, in what, in Champaign? It snows in Champaign. What are you thinking? So after some influence, he decided to get on board with me and we started moving forward with it. Go to the next slide. Alright, I just wanted to put Michael Scott in there, so the next slide. Alright, so in the very beginning, you know, you don't have much. You got a blank canvas. You got an idea, but that's it. And that's kind of what I was. I was kind of the idea man, and that's kind of really, in all honesty, all I wanted to be was like this guy that came up with ideas and like had other people just do it for me. And so that's kind of where my friend Jeremy came into play. So I had all these cool ideas, and I was like, you know, just like I was a pretty creative person and wanted to make something of it. And so in the very beginning, it's just a brainstorming session. You got nothing. You've got a pen and paper, and you've got the idea that you want to make food for a living. Where do you go from there? So an important idea to know that when you're starting a business, there really aren't any stupid ideas. There are plenty of stupid ideas when you're running a business, but when you're brainstorming for how you're going to run a business, there aren't any stupid ideas. I would take a second semester senior year, and again, I don't know how many second semester seniors there are in here, but it's not that difficult. Classes are usually pretty easy. For me it was. And so I would just take some blow-off classes, and I would sit in the back of class and like kind of pretend like I was working and just like writing down just like all these ideas that I had. And 100, 1,000 ideas for sandwiches and sandwich names, and I would just like write. And after writing 100 of them, you finally come up with something that's good. And so, along those lines, the idea is, you know, don't be afraid of coming up with something stupid. When creating Cracked, there were plenty of stupid ideas, there were plenty of stupid things that I did, but the best ideas that I had came from those stupid ideas. And if I were to write 100 names for one sandwich, one good name is going to come out of those. That's nice. Okay, so along those lines, you know, I said I kind of want to be the idea man, but you know, an idea man can't run a company. There were a lot of things that we had to do a lot of hurdles we had to jump over to actually start a truck, actually open a food truck in Champaign. We found out that in Urbana you can park at meters, in Champaign you can't. You need private property. This is some really boring stuff that we had to, you know, find out about and learn about so we could not get in trouble when we were operating. One of the biggest hurdles we had to jump over was dealing with the health department. And in Champaign, when we were opening, this is 2012, there was really only one food truck on campus. That was Daryl's. It was parked on Matthews, and it's still there. So we went to the health department and we said, hey, we're gonna open a food truck, what can you tell us? And they just kind of looked at us like dumbfounded. You know, like who would want to open a food truck in Champaign? So they kind of talked and they got back to us and they gave us this packet of restaurant laws and said, just put it in front of us and said, all right, follow these. And we took it back to our house and read through them, and they just didn't make any sense. Like, they wanted us to have like a 4-foot aisle like in between like all of our equipment, and that was for like handicap accessibility for like restaurants. And they wanted us to have like a bathroom, and they wanted us to have all of our equipment on casters, and casters are wheels, and that's so you could like easily clean under everything and like pull them out. And so we're just reading through this thing and just like, we can't do any of this stuff. This doesn't make any sense to us. So we went back to the health department and said, you know, a lot of these don't apply to us. And they said, oh, well, just follow the ones that make sense. We're like, well, how are we supposed to know what makes sense? Like, maybe this makes sense to us, but it doesn't make sense to you. Come on, you gotta help us out here. And so they said, okay, well, what doesn't make sense? And we're like, well, we can't have a bathroom, right? Like, we don't have to have a bathroom, do we? They're like, no, that's ridiculous, come on. All right, well, what about these 4-foot aisles? Like, we can't do that. No, that's ridiculous. All right, well, what about having all of our equipment on wheels? Like, why we can't do that? And they said, well, why not? And we're like, well, because we're gonna be a truck, and we're gonna be driving. And they're like, well, you're not gonna be driving like maniacs, are you? And we're like, what's wrong with you guys? No, we're not gonna drive like maniacs. We can't have like a 100-pound deep fryer like banging around the back of our truck. So what we found out pretty immediately was that the city of Champaign and the health department basically had no regulations or rules for us to follow. They had no past experience dealing with food trucks, and they were just kind of making everything up as we went along. So that was a big struggle. That was like, you know, we're basically pioneering this and getting the health department to learn with us on what the regulations are and what a truck should be. So now we've got some basic information from the health department. Okay, this is what we gotta do. Now we gotta find a truck. This was hard because I'm not a mechanic, nor was my business partner, and I don't know anything about trucks. And so we went on Craigslist, was literally our first stop. And we found this guy after like a month of searching, and he was selling a truck, and he was trying to turn this truck into a food truck. And so we thought, okay, you know, he's trying to turn it into a food truck, maybe we can turn this truck into a food truck. So we meet this guy in Chicago in January, and it's like 4 degrees outside, and we like look over the truck, it takes hours, and he gives us this packet of all of the food truck information that he's found over the past 6 months of trying to turn this truck into a food truck. And so we're just like, gold mine. Oh my God, you know, this guy's doing it for us. So he hooks us up with an outfitter who has also never built a food truck before. And so we call the outfitter. The guy's name's Lenny, real nice guy. We're like, Lenny, you know what you do for us? He's like, well, okay, I can build you a food truck, but I've never built a food truck before. We're like, okay, well, you know, we don't really have an option here. You seem like a nice guy, so here's our business. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the picture of the truck when we first bought it. This was January of 2012. And we bought it as like just a used tool truck. And then that is the finished product of truck number 1. So this was about 6 months. This was, we didn't know what we were doing. And Lenny, it wasn't a vote of confidence from Lenny that he could get this done for sure. So we spent all of our second semester, senior year, driving up to Chicago and back to Champaign, checking on the truck, making sure it was done how we wanted it to be, and just, kind of making sure it was moving forward. So it was pretty cool to kind of go up there every week and see the progress that was made. And also I was very thankful that I didn't have to build a kitchen in a truck by myself. So now we've kind of got this truck, and it's just a blank canvas at this point. What are we going to do? We still need a logo, we still need a menu, we still need to find parking, we still need to basically create an entire company. So the idea that I wanted to shape the company around was I wanted this to be fun. I wanted people to enjoy it, I wanted customers to come to the truck and enjoy it, and I wanted my employees to have a good time and feel like they were working in an environment that was fun. So let's go to the next slide. So I was trying to get a little weird with this. And self-proclaimed, I'm a pretty weird person. And I wanted to work with other fun, weird people who had a good attitude about food and a good attitude about working. And we're just gonna have fun with this. So what I really wanted to portray in the company was, I felt like a logo was kind of everything. Obviously you need good food, obviously you need good customer service. Those are two of the most important things you can have. But a logo was, I was going to be a perfectionist about it, and I wanted it to be awesome. Let's go to the next slide. So this is where we started. This is the first logo that we created. And the great part about working as a senior and working with other students around you is that students really want to help, and they just want to work for the experience. So I had two very good friends who were real interested in working with me on this. And one had some art background, one had some tech background. Neither of them were artists or computer digitizers, I guess. I guess you guys would know as engineers. So I had this girl work with me on the art. And so this is the first one she created. And to be completely honest, I just totally hated this. It was awful. But how do you say that to your friend? This is a friend of mine who was doing this basically for free. And, I just thought the first thing sucked. So after a lot of nitpicking and working together, we kind of got to the bottom logo over there. And that was kind of like the more groundbreaking. It was like, okay, we've got a good base here. We've got something to work with. And we kind of went from there. So let's go next slide. So this is the fun part of opening Crack. It was, it was ideas. We have a blank canvas. We could do anything we want. So we kind of went from that bottom one over there to up here, and then decided that we want lowercase, and then we got to here, and then we finally kind of got a finished product. So this is kind of all part of putting all this together and keeping this a fun, weird concept. Next slide. So this is one of my favorite quotes. and kind of stuck with me throughout the creation of Cracked. I really am a strong purveyor of, do something different. Without doing something different, you're never going to create something unique. And if we're all trying to do something like McDonald's or Subway or Wendy's, although great, we're never going to progress. We're never going to get past that. And don't settle. Don't settle for mediocrity, and don't settle for anything less than what you expect of yourself. So, self-proclaimed, I am a perfectionist, but in no way does that make me perfect. I'm very far from perfect. What's important to remember when starting a business is that you're not going to be perfect, you're not going to do everything perfectly, but at the same time, you can't settle for anything less than perfect. If you have a vision, follow that vision, stay true to it, stay strong, listen to others, take advice, and focus on the future. One of the worst things that you can possibly do is dwell on the past. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that you wish you hadn't done. You're going to do, you're going to be put into a situation where you're out of your comfort zone. You're going to make the wrong decision. But the best thing you can do is not dwell on that decision. Move forward, move past that mistake, and just keep going. That's the next slide. So this is a little comic from Peanuts, one of my favorite comic strips. And Charlie Brown, I like Charlie because he's just like always, I don't know, he's always like a little downer, a little upset about something, but he kind of has no reason to be. And it's like, why is he so worried about yesterday? Why doesn't he just think about how tomorrow's gonna be better? So I don't know. Charlie Brown is kind of he's got a real bad attitude about everything, and I think the comics kind of put that in a good light. Okay, so some of the biggest advice that I can give as a business owner would be remember that you don't know everything, and it's not even possible to know everything. When I started the business, I had a business partner, and he was, as I said, I was kind of the idea man. He was the paperwork guy, and I loved having someone like that. That was because it allowed me to focus on the business. All I wanted to do was be on a truck and cook sandwiches and make eggs and bump music real loud and, be with customers and be with my employees, and it was just, that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. And the back end paperwork part of it was just so not even in the back of my mind that I wanted to just focus on the food truck and selling food. A big reason that I got to the point I'm at is because I had help. It's because I had someone who was able to run the business side of it, keep our contacts organized, really just all the incredibly boring stuff that goes into a business, while I was able to be on the street having fun, serving food every day. On the other side, I don't know anything about accounting, and that is a huge part of running a business. My dad is actually my accountant. He's my CFO. And again, I couldn't possibly be where I'm at without him helping with my numbers. I graduated in 2012 with a degree in food science and human nutrition, so very little business experience whatsoever. So with the help of my business partner who knew business and the help of my dad, who was going to be our accountant, it really made it so we could move forward in the right direction. I could focus on the business, on selling sandwiches, on keeping this concept cool, and the business could kind of be run on the back end. Like I said earlier, students are awesome. I paid those two people I was talking about, Sam and Devin. They were my digitizer and my artist. I paid them each $100 and a case of beer to design that logo. Students are like, they just want experience and they have great ideas. What I like about students and being a student was, when you're a student, you haven't been diluted by the industry yet. So you haven't been working somewhere where everything is cookie cuttery, where everything is exactly the same, where you need to do something like this or this or this or this. You have your own ideas, you have unique ideas, and none of you yet have been diluted by the industry yet. And it's, in my opinion, important to stay like that. It's important to keep that almost ignorance towards the industry, so you can create something new, you can create something unique, and not something that is the same as we've seen for years. So along those lines, if you're doing too much, if you're trying to do too much, if I was trying to do everything, Crack would not be where it is today. We would be one truck and I would be on it right now. But since I had help, since I knew how to delegate, since I knew what I needed help with, it really allowed me to grow and allowed me to expand into what we are today. Okay, so one of the biggest lessons that you're gonna learn after opening a restaurant is that you're gonna make so many mistakes. And these are not possible to avoid. You can try to control how many mistakes you make, but really the biggest thing that you can do is learn from these mistakes. When we first started, we had our grand opening August 2nd of 2012, and all of our friends and family came down from Chicago to see the grand opening. And so we started taking orders, and orders are coming through. We got like 20 orders backed up, and I'm calling out tots to the fry station, and they're like the tots aren't frying, like something's wrong with the deep fryer. And so I run over to the deep fryer and I open it up, and it turns out the deep fryer was not on. So we're dropping these tots, and there's like this pool of oil, and they're just sitting there just sinking. It's gross. And we're like, oh shit, gotta turn the deep fryer on. How did we forget that? That's such a simple thing. We have like 3 things to remember. Like grill, double burner, deep fryer. So we turn the deep fryer on, and it takes about 20 minutes to heat up. So we've got sandwiches that are coming out. And so, again, remember, this is the first time my family has ever seen the truck in action. And so we've got sandwiches are coming out, they're ready, and the deep fryer is not frying tots. And so we're like, okay, we're just gonna send the sandwiches out, and then we're gonna send the tots out when they're ready, like 20 minutes later. And so at this point, we didn't have any system for calling out names or anything. So we were just like, we got these sandwiches, we're screaming out the window like, I got a goy bay for John. Like, is there a John? And there's like 30 people in front of the window. And And we were like, oh, I got 2 vegasms. Who's got 2 vegasms? And everyone's like raising their hand, like, yeah, me. Like, I got sandwiches. Give me my sandwiches. We're like, oh shit. I have no idea who these sandwiches are going to. I just have, that guy's got 1 sandwich, that guy's got 2 sandwiches. Like, oh no. And so then we're throwing these sandwiches at people, and then 20 minutes later, all their tots are coming out, and then we're yelling out, like, oh, who had like 4 Parmesan truffle tots? Who out there? And then everyone's raising their hand, like, yeah, I got tots, give me my tots. It was a nightmare. It was a total nightmare. So from that day on, I never forgot to turn the deep fryer on. And I always asked for people's names, because that was a nightmare. So, I don't know, stuff like that. It's like, that was our very first day of opening. And that was the first time my parents had ever seen the truck in action. Any of my friends had ever seen it. And we totally messed it up. But what you do from that is you learn, you know? Never again will I not turn the deep fryer on. You know, never again am I just gonna take orders without taking names. So really what you gotta do is, you gotta make mistakes. You have to. The mistakes are gonna make you better. And after making a million mistakes over and over and over and over again, that's how you're gonna learn. You know, over time, after leaving our menu board on the sidewalk overnight when it was raining, you know, we finally stopped doing that. Or like forgetting to put cups on the truck, or eggs. Like, how do we even forget eggs? Like, that's almost impossible. So after all of these things, after messing up so many times, you're gonna get it right. So that's it. Thanks a lot for having me. Any questions, comments, smart remarks? Yeah.
Anyone have a question?
Originally, me and my business partner were both able to get funding from our parents just to start the first one. And then after about a year and a half of time, we were able to prove to a bank that we could make money, and that's how we got funding to expand.
Can you talk a little bit more about like the costs initially, and you know, cost of parking, cost of the truck, you know, things like that?
No. Sorry.
Can you explain more like how you iterate on the menu? Like how easily can you add an item, or like how are you using people's feedback for food?
Yeah, for sure. The menu is more complicated than you think. Adding a menu item can be annoying because you need to stock that item, and then you need to relay to all of your employees how a new item is going to get cooked. And you need to make sure that it's getting cooked the exact same over both trucks and doing delivery. So when I add a menu item, it's really just I try to take things that are in season that we may already have in stock, and then just kind of put them together and create a special. I don't really have plans of changing the menu or adding things on the menu permanently, because it can be very difficult to implement that, but you know, specials just kind of come when I feel the inspiration, I guess. Yeah.
Why breakfast food?
That's a good question. I really like breakfast food, and I think most people do. So really, it's almost as simple as that. Eggs are a lot of fun. Eggs are like, in my mind, kind of a blank canvas. So you can kind of make anything with eggs. Like you go Mexican, you can kind of go Greek with them. You just kind of do anything. So I thought eggs were kind of fun to work with. Yeah.
Along those lines, how did you come up with your original menu?
Oh man. Okay, so I told you that I had this internship with this restaurant company, I created a lot of the menu items when I was there, and then I kind of tweaked them and turned them into breakfast sandwiches. So the original idea was I had this restaurant concept, and it was going to be an omelet bar in Chicago. And so when I realized that I couldn't make a restaurant, I was going to make a food truck. And so the idea was, well, let's take these kind of specialty omelets that I've already created and turn them all into breakfast sandwiches. And I remember thinking one time I was at breakfast with my mom, and she was eating a breakfast sandwich, and I was thinking to myself, like, why doesn't anyone make a breakfast sandwich with hash browns on it? Because who doesn't love, like, hash browns, you know, on a breakfast sandwich? And honestly, that's where the original concept came from. Was like, I was just thinking, like, why doesn't anyone do that? And so I kind of wanted to do it. So that's kind of where the original base of the concept started. Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the weirder menu items you call that we have?
Okay. The original underdog was hash browns, egg, salami, and half a hot dog and barbecue sauce on a sandwich. It was real bad. It was really bad. It was so good in my head though. It made so much sense. The original vegasm was like, it was like a teriyaki portobello mushroom and hummus and spinach, I think. It was pretty weird. It was a really weird combo. There's a menu item that if you order on the truck, they will totally hate you because it's really impossible to make, but it's called the Dr. Seuss. And we put pesto in the egg wash to make like green eggs, and then we mixed it with spinach and green peppers and onions and bacon and cheddar cheese. And we just like chop that up and put it in a wrap. And I really liked it, but you know, I don't know. It was kind of hard to make. So if you guys order the Dr. Seuss, you guys should try that. And they'll probably have no idea what you're talking about, but the people that do know what you're talking about, they're going to totally hate you for ordering it. Yeah. No, not at all. I was totally upfront with them about what I was going to do, and it was my concept, like separate of the internship, and they really had no issue with it. And to this day, I think they kind of talk about this and will say, you know, this is kind of what you can do after the internship. Yeah. Yeah.
How is your transition going to be like one truck to kind of being like really popular in campus and multiple trucks and being like guys in different locations all the time? Like, what was that like for you to like hire more people?
Yeah, that was really hard. Last June, I bought out my business partner. He was the one that I started the company with, and he was the one that was organized. And you know, he did all the office manager work. So in June, he left, and I was then responsible for taking over all of his work. So I was learning his job. I was trying to get the second truck up and going, and we were also in the process of building a warehouse, which was going to have our commissary in it. The commissary is like a kitchen space. So between June and December was probably the hardest 5-6 months of my life. Taking over that job, learning how to essentially run a business from the back end and not just from an operational standpoint, and then also try to get that second truck operational. It was a lot. It was really hard. Yeah.
What's that like your vision moving forward now, the next couple of years? Like, how do you expand in this area and like expand like the locations?
Yeah, you know, I kind of have different ideas every day about it, but we're trying to get delivery going. So we have this cool warehouse space, and we have a big kitchen, and so by next semester, I'd like to have late night delivery going for everyone, which will then hopefully kind of stem into more daytime delivery business and kind of more catering business. Do I think I'm going to get another truck? Probably not. Trucks are really, really hard to work with, and that is because they're trucks. They have wheels, and they break down, and they have engines, and coolant, and liquids that I don't know what they are, and brake pads, and it's just, you're dealing with a moving thing. So over time, I kind of had to learn how to be a mechanic and an electrician and a plumber and do regular maintenance on these trucks, which is totally out of my comfort zone. So I don't foresee another truck coming out, but I'm not done yet. Yeah. The degree definitely helped somewhat. It's a food science degree, so I do have a pretty good background in food chemistry. Dealing with the health department, it makes that a lot easier because they're kind of all about time and temperatures and bacteria and whatnot. So dealing with them is a lot easier due to the degree. Business-wise, not at all. I mean, it's not helped me at all because I took no business classes, which was probably not smart. Yeah.
Now, with no campus, there's a lot more clubs popping up. Do you feel like that's increasing competition for you, or do you feel like it's actually growing your business? Just more practice.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said that I didn't think it was competition, but at the same time, it does definitely just increase the awareness of food trucks. You know, if you got two people walking back to class and they're thinking, oh, we got the pizza guys and the egg guys over on Matthews, you know, we could both go and get something that we want instead of two people walking home, you know, getting a Chipotle or something. So I think the added variety of trucks definitely brings more people out there. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said, you know, it would be nice to be the only people out there at this point. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. It's a fine line between spending money that you know is going to come back to you and using free advertising, which is nowadays basically everywhere. I like to promote on Facebook and Twitter because it is free and all of you guys use those things. So it's a really good way of communicating with the customer base, just, you know, on my own computer. I try not to spend too much money on marketing or promoting or advertising, things that I think that I can kind of do myself. And, you know, I think we've got a pretty good name at this point on campus, and people kind of know who we are, what we're doing, where to find us. So to spend too much money on marketing, I think, you know, would be kind of a waste. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, so just like with a lot of businesses that end up failing, like I did kind of looking at that very deeply, just like not to worry about it at all.
No, I was totally terrified. I was so scared. Literally, probably the scariest thing going into this industry was you can have a good concept and you can have good food and people just may not show up. And as a business owner, it's hard to see your own business from someone else's shoes. And so it's hard to like step outside of yourself and like see what the problem is. So I thought that if I created this and created the concept and the menu and created good food and no one showed up, then it would be very hard for me to take a step back and say, well, what's wrong with it? You know, what did I do wrong here? Why is no one coming? That was really terrifying. That's, especially in the restaurant industry, we've got about a 90% failure rate. And so to be kind of stacked up against those odds, yeah, you gotta put out something cool, and you gotta get pretty lucky at the same time. And I think we did both of those things. Pricing is actually pretty simple. It's kind of just like a equation. Pricing should be basically like 30% of your food cost. So you kind of take like numbers like that, and overall, your food cost should come to about 30%. So that's kind of how all the pricing gets worked out. Anyone else? Do I see myself ever opening a store? Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. Again, I would like to not open any more food trucks because of how difficult they are to work with. You know, the original idea was opening a restaurant in Chicago or opening one in like Evanston. So someday I can kind of see myself opening a restaurant or a storefront, or maybe getting into like restaurant consulting someday. That's a hard one to answer. You kind of have to like sift through the advice that you get. And one of my dad's best friends used to be the CFO of McDonald's, and he used to give me some like very good advice, but at the same time, he would give me some very terrible advice that would kind of only work for a company like McDonald's. So some people will give you great advice, and some people will give you terrible advice, but honestly, in the terrible advice, you kind of got to sift through it and find like those nuggets of like good advice where, you know, you're going to take that and run with it. That's kind of tough, you know. Bad advice is dangerous. If someone gives you bad advice and you start running with it, yeah, you're kind of in for a real bad time.
One more question.
Yeah.
How did you go about choosing locations for your, I know there were restrictions on where you park. You had spots in mind.
Yeah, we really wanted to park at Biff, which seemed like would have been like a great spot for us. Turns out the campus school doesn't let you park really anywhere, like on campus. That's a big reason why you see food trucks in Urbana and not Champaign, is Urbana lets you park at like public meters that are commercially zoned, and Champaign makes you park on private property, and you're only allowed to be there for a certain amount of hours. So they restrict you. So that's why Urbana is kind of almost like the only option for food trucks if you want to park all day. Along those lines, I wanted us to be in a spot, like the same spot all day, every day. And that was because I like the idea of having a restaurant where people know you're going to be there, know your hours, they can expect you when you walk to class, and they can expect you when they're walking back from class. You know, so I like the idea of being in the same spot every day. Okay, all right, thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right, guys. It looks like not everyone that signed up for food showed up today, so we'll have a little bit of extra. So just make sure, we're going to go ahead and wait until everyone that has a ticket has gotten their food, and then you guys can just form a line behind that.